in 2018, class number 32. Alrighty, folks. A happy early July 4th. I'm all glad that you made it here anyway. To celebrate, you have to remember always to be thankful to the American government, the American people, for the what they do for the Jewish people, how they are so kind and benevolent, and just remember to be grateful for what they do. So people said, well, how do you celebrate July 4th? Jews always want to know, like, what's the mitzvah, like how do you do it? I said, well, so make sure you have a barbecue, and you go and you have your a baseball game. I'm not sure what it is, but make sure you celebrate July 4th properly. And if you don't want to miss any of the mitzvahs, make sure you make kiddush, celebrate it properly. Okay, so last week we ended off in middle of page, I think 33, right?
Yes.
Right, so middle to start from chapter 7, and we'll just start from there. I think we had a little further than that, but we'll just go back. We'll start reading from the beginning of chapter 7. Chapter 7, verse 1, page 33. Kenny, you want to read?
Sure. Then Hashem said to Noah, "Come to the ark, you and all your household, for it is you that I have seen to be righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean animal take unto you 7 pairs, a male with its mate, and of the animal that is not clean 2, a male with its mate. Of the birds of the heavens also 7 pairs, male and female, to keep the seed alive upon the face of the earth. For in 7 more days' time I will send rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and I will blot out all existence that I have made from upon the face of the ground." And Noah did according to everything that Hashem had commanded.
Now, what does it mean in 7 more days?
He's giving them a last chance to repent.
Last chance to repent. But he gave them 120 years.
But God's good.
God's good. He gives them an extra 7 days of repentance.
Little extra days to be sure.
Okay. Maybe they'll finally get it.
Wasn't there also the opportunity to influence one other person? Was that still an opportunity?
That always was an opportunity. So 7 more days, because in 7 more days what had happened was Methuselah had just died. And since Methuselah had died, so they had a sit shiva. And since Methuselah was righteous, right, God did not want to stop the sitting shiva of Methuselah. Right? And so therefore that's why there was 7 days, right, that it went ahead, and it was 7 days of another 7 days. Is they actually got their life extended by 7 days in honor of Methuselah. Right, that Methuselah's honor should be honored, and so therefore they didn't want to stop. They didn't want to stop the mourning of Methuselah.
And this is another example of Noah knowing the mitzvahs before the Torah was given.
Right, okay, read all the world, right, the idea of mourning, right, 7 days of mourning, sure. But not only this, what actually is quite fascinating, right, is that, so God only brought the flood after Methuselah died, right? Why did Methuselah have to die?
He was still righteous.
He was still righteous, and so what if he was still righteous? Why didn't God just stick him on the ark?
Wait.
There probably was room for one more, you know what I'm saying? Right, you know what I'm saying? They could have figured out another way to stick one more on the ark. So why does God wait 7 days?
As a line of separation from pre-Methuselah to post-Methuselah?
So it's okay. Well, why would that be? Why would that be important for us?
I don't know.
Well, would that be important? Because the reason why where it's Noah's, what's happening with Noah right now is it's a turning point,
Right.
like a starting over. So did they need?
So I would tell you like this: as long as Methuselah was alive, could not be a flood on the earth.
Okay.
Why not?
There were still righteous people.
No, only Methuselah.
We represented something.
Right. How many people made it on the ark?
2, 5,
8. And Methuselah was
9.
9. And if you have 9 people, I thought you need 10 to save the world.
8. God would be the 10th.
God would be the 10th. Who learned this idea? Abraham. Remember when Abraham prays to God? He says maybe there are 50 righteous people, maybe there are 45 righteous people. He says maybe there are 5 cities. So if you have 9 in each city, then God will be the 10th in each city. And so you see that 9 righteous people, right? That all you need to save the world is really 9 righteous people. And you need 10, but God would be the 10th to help you save the city.
So then why did he have to die?
Might have to die because as long as he was alive, the flood could not come.
Oh, we needed the flood to come.
The flood needed to come, but that's why God waited until he dies, so then the flood can come. But as long as he's alive, there could not be a flood.
Wow.
Now, what's interesting, some people say, well, 9 or 10, so isn't this like a minion? Right?
No.
No, because it was women.
Why not?
So it's
Oh,
actually
very
women.
good. Right? Because over here it's 9 righteous people, right? Or 10 righteous people. Men and women. It doesn't have to be men. Right? Women has a minion has really nothing to do with this. Right? A minion is just its own separate thing.
Yeah, you can't equate the two.
Right? I mean, you can't equate the two. Right? They're 2 totally separate ideas. Right? And so that's why Methuselah has to die. God says another 7 days, right? Because as soon as he died, now the flood can come. But God says, for the flood is going to come now, it's going to interrupt the mourning for Methuselah, and that's not appropriate. And so therefore, we're going to wait another 7 days till the flood can go, till the flood can come. Okay, that's why it says another 7 days. Right, and right, just with that one word, another, right? That tells us, right, that there was a reason why there had to be an extra 7-day period. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay, verse number 6.
Noah was 600 years old when the flood was water upon the earth.
Okay, and again, remind me again, how many years since the creation of man did the flood happen? What year?
Like 1600.
1656. 1656, okay? And it's pretty good, right? Within 100 years. Right? 1656, right? 1656, that's how many years since the creation of the world. And so how old was Noah? What year was Noah born? 1056. Okay, good. Excellent. Now, they say doctors can't do math, but...
I used my fingers and toes.
I was going to lend you mine, you could use mine if you ran out of yours. Right, so Noah was born in the year 1056. By the way, which is interesting, what year did Noah die? Actually, what year did Adam die? Adam died in the year 930. He was 930. He was supposed to live 1,000 years. He gave 70 years to King David.
That's right.
Right? So he lived 930 years. So really, the difference between Adam dying and Noah being born was only 126 years. right? That's all, right? And right in between Adam being born and Noah, right, in 600 years into Noah's life, that was 10 generations. Okay, and that was 10 generations. Okay, so go ahead. Verse number 7.
Noah with his sons, his wife, and his sons' wives with him went into the ark because of the waters of the flood.
Now, what do you mean because of the waters of the flood? Now, what's because of the waters of the flood?
Had it started to rain yet?
It had started to rain. So why didn't Noah get into the ark?
Okay, it was.
Because it seems that Noah only got into the ark because of the rain waters.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right? Which means that before then, right, he wasn't gonna he wasn't gonna go in.
Right.
Right? And so, and Rashi, there's a famous Rashi here that I'll tell you I don't quite understand. But it says that Noah only went in because of the flood waters, because Rashi says he was also lacking somewhat in trust in God. Right? Right? He wasn't really sure if the flood was gonna come. And so therefore, this was the time that it really was time to get into the into the ark. You see, I have a different. I'm not sure why Rashi doesn't say this, but I thought, why wouldn't Noah want to go into the ark?
Because God commanded.
Why would he
not want to go into the ark?
Oh.
Did he think he wasn't worthy of being saved?
No. I don't know. If I was in there and the first drop of rain, or if it even began like, oh my gosh, think it's raining, I would have gone right into that ark. I would have been like, up the ramp and in, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe he was thinking, maybe we're getting a last chance if we hang out a little bit.
Oh, so I was thinking that maybe he was hoping that people would do tshuva, and that's why he didn't go in. Right? Like he was waiting, hoping that people would do tshuva. So
he didn't need people; he needed a person.
I mean, right, and you only need one person. In 120 years, he couldn't find one person.
That's it.
Rabbi. Rashi's comment is okay, human condition, even though it doesn't mean they didn't trust God, but I think they used to get rain before that big rain start, right? And then we'll say like, okay, yeah, it's raining. Okay, we saw rain before, and then now we came to the point that it was beyond what they usually have as a rain, and then say, oh, this is something different, so we should go in now.
So it happens interesting. Rashi is quoting the Talmud. So I have a reason why I think that the Talmud would not take my explanation.
We will take it here.
No. Let me explain to you. If the Talmud does not take my explanation and says something diametrically opposed to what I'm saying, you know what that means?
Soft bound against
it means I'm wrong. It's just to figure out why. Okay, right. So I think the answer might be like this.
Or no one else thought of your answer.
No. If nobody else thought of my answer, that means it's wrong. That means it's a big problem, right? It's so funny. I remember as a kid that we'd be studying something, and then somebody would ask a question, and the Rebbe would go, "Well, that's a great question." Rashi asked the question, and he gets so deflated, because Rashi asked the question. And really, if you hear Rashi ask your question, do you know what that means? You and Rashi asked the same question. Like, that's just amazing, right? You know what I'm saying? Like that's we're looking at it the wrong way, right?
Right.
Rashi asked your question. Wow. Like that's like amazing.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like that's really where it comes from.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like it's Rashi asked your question. So let me tell you why I think the Talmud does not say what I'm saying. What would be a stronger motivation for you to do tshuva? Having it rain? No, saying it's, 7 days it's coming, man. Okay, come 7 days.
You're all goners.
And right with it, comes the seventh day, you wake up in the morning and it's raining. Right? And you look at old man Noach, right? You've been watching him to do this thing. And he's not going into the ark. Scenario A. Scenario B. You look out and there's Noach running up to the ark and pulling the drawbridge up, batting down the hatches. Which one would motivate you more to do tshuva?
The
second. And that's why it's not what I said. Right? Because if Noach wanted to motivate them to do tshuva, right? So then what he should have done is get on the boat quickly and pull up the ark. Pull up the ramp. Because that would be the biggest motivator. Ship setting sail. Right? That's amazing. And the ship is setting sail and nobody's coming on board.
Were they actually watching them?
Yeah.
They thought he was crazy, so why would they watch?
Because remember, what were the mafia guys thinking?
We're in control.
What?
We're in control.
We're in control.
If he's right, we're going to go.
We're going to go and we're going to get on the boat. We're going to throw him off and we'll take a ride in his boat. Right? And so they were watching. Because if they wasn't doing, if they was getting on, guess where they were going? Mm-hmm. They were going with him. Man, and so that's why they went ahead, and that's where they go ahead and they were certainly watching him. Now, how did Noach get on board when they had all those people, all those wicked people who were going to try to kill him, and not let him get on board?
God slammed the door for him.
No, he had the animals.
That's very good. So the animals that didn't make it onto the ark, and all the other millions of lions and tigers that didn't make it onto the ark, they pulled guard duty.
It worked for me.
Right? And so therefore all the guys that tried to stop Noach ended up getting eaten by a lion or a tiger or a bear.
I'll go back to something you said a minute or so ago about Noach in 120 years not being able to convert one person
To monotheism, right? Or away from idolatry, right?
Away from idolatry.
Idolatry, adultery, murder.
Whatever it might be. But, you could look at it from this standpoint that he really wasn't very convincing in what he did. In other words, he had a kind of a one-track mind, build the ark, but forget about everything else. And didn't try to...
No, but that wasn't what he was supposed to be doing.
Right. Trying. What was his mission?
Well, his mission was A, to build the ark, B, to bring the animals, and C, to propagate life again after
To save the world, right?
Rabbi, I'm sure that the time he was building the ark, people passing by say, "What are you doing, crazy guy?" They would tell you, "Hey, God say I'm gonna destroy the world, so you better change." He said, oh, "Come on, Noah, you lose your mind, right?"
Right, sure.
Okay, so they give them enough time to.
No, he did. Right, and they did for sure.
But if he were persuasive enough, why couldn't he do it?
Right, no. It's a great question. Why he wasn't able to do it? Right. It's and according to the Talmud, he gets some blame for it.
I mean, I am in the defense of Noah. Today's day, let's say today's day, we study Torah here, and Rabbi tells us, okay, guys, time is near, you got to do something. And then we went out and then we told people, hey, you know what, we got to turn, who's going to listen to you? They will tell you, you come back here again, we smash you, right? I think it's the same thing, right?
It's, yes, I mean, it's if God tells you the flood is coming, and you have to go save the world, right? Right. Build the ark is going to go save the world, right?
Saving the world has two components.
Go ahead.
Finding one more person is a primary one, and the secondary purpose is build the ark.
Very good, right? I would have, right? means you know, say God says build the ark. You know, so you go, you call Home Depot, and you put the order in. But then instead of building the ark, you're busy going and building a person or people to try to get them to stop doing idolatry, adultery, murder. Right? So then at that point in time, it takes much less effort. Right? Or you'll save the world. Right? I mean, right?
Isn't it better to save the world than help create the new world?
Yes. Much better.
Yeah.
Much better.
So that's his primary purpose. The ark is his secondary
Right.
purpose.
Right. But God gave him.
The ark was the means to the end.
Right.
Was the secondary goal.
Well, the primary, but it was the means to
It was a mean to that goal of making sure the world was
Would perpetuate.
perpetuated. Somebody just told me actually, and I don't know the story, but it sounds that it might be right. There was you heard of the Abu Chatzero?
Yes.
Yeah, it says a great sage. They said, how do you get the name Abu Chatzero? So he said he once wanted to go on a ship. And they wouldn't let him on the ship because he was Jewish. They wouldn't let him on the ship. So he said, okay. He had to go where he was going. So he took out his mat. He sat on his mat. And off he went sailing across the water.
He sat on his what?
Mat. M-A-T. Right? And so the ship was sailing, and they looked back, and there's the rabbi that they didn't want to let on the boat, sitting on his mat, going right behind them. And so they go on and on and on, and like finally halfway through the journey, they say, do you want to come on the boat? He said, no, I'm fine. So he's called Abu Chatzero, which means like the father of the mat, right? Is that he's, right? That was where he got his name from. Right, so it's, you know, instead of building the ark, remember we said, right, God could make it a heck of a lot easier for Noah. He could have said, take a can of spray paint, you know, you're 30 by, you know, you're 50 cubits by 300 cubits, right? 50 by 300, and actually can make a 3D piece of it and just come to life by itself. Get all the animals to, you know, right? But that would not have done it. Like God wanted the whole world to see it. Meant to see it and to absorb it and to understand what it's all about. And to really drive home that that's the boat that's going, and you're on that boat, you make it, you're not on a boat, you don't, and guess who's getting to go on a boat? You got to get your passport. If you don't have it, you ain't going. Right? It's an amazing thing. Right? That's our job. And so he had a job.
How was he able to keep his family on the straight and narrow?
Who? Noah?
Yeah.
Right. How do you keep your family? Right. From not assimilating. What? You keep them all in wood. It's a great question. I mean, you should know that question is not just a question for then.
Yeah.
It's a very applicable question today. Right? How do you raise your kids today that they don't assimilate? You know, there's a great line somebody once told me. It's so amazing. You better teach your kids your values before somebody else teaches them their values.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
Better teach your kids your values before somebody else goes and teach your kids their values. And we live in a world which is quite fascinating, is that most people don't know what their values are and don't know where they come from. You know, we sort of have been inundated with the world we live in, and we have a you know, we just sort of like whatever the world says, you know, like that's what we follow. Right? And we're not willing to really to understand right what our values are, where they come from, and to make sure we pass them along to our children. You know what I'm saying? Like that's something that's so. I mean, like today we live in a world where the world is so fakakt, right? Right. They're so bananas in how they look at the world, what the world is. They have a very hard time figuring it out.
people die trying to get their 15 minutes on Facebook of fame. I
Right.
mean, they spray each other with a lighter fluid to try to outdo the other guy to get more likes,
Mm-hmm.
and all kinds of crazy mishkas.
Crazy stuff. Crazy what people do.
So that's the Jewish people mission in this world. I think that's the way to check the value. What is the real value of the world? And does many people understand today what is, the value of this world? What does that mean? No, but they will say, when you ask people who say, well, I gotta get rich, I gotta get big mansion, a big car.
Mm-hmm.
But the little Jewish guy will tell you, all right, Hashem, what are you gonna tell him? They'll say, don't say that again, and so
Our job is to teach the world how to have a relationship with God and how to serve God.
It's interesting because if you think about the Babylonian exile,
Right.
when the Jews were shipped off into exile, basically,
Mm-hmm.
they potentially had the loss of language. They certainly had some change in language,
Mhm.
and yet they had the fortitude to come back when they were released and build a second temple.
Right. Well, it's interesting. Who came back? Not everyone came
No,
back.
not
There's a
everybody
few,
did.
Right. Not a lot.
1,500 families.
And I think like 30, 40,000 Jews, but there were a lot of Jews in Babylonia, right, who didn't come back. In fact, the Levites didn't come back. The Levites didn't come back.
Why?
Why? Because everything was set up in Babylonia, and Ezra, right, the one who, right, Ezra the scribe, right, who brought the Jews back, right, who led the Jewish people come back, actually went and gave them a penalty that they lost. There's certain things that they're supposed to get, and they lost those things that they're supposed to get because they didn't come back.
who, the Levite?
Yeah.
Mm.
Now it's fascinating. So who was right?
Who was right?
Ezra or the Levites?
Well,
Why would the Levites be right?
And it's interesting, right?
I don't see where they're right.
Right. So it's very fascinating. So and always, Ezra was right. Those people were wrong. Yet you had great sages that didn't come back, and they know the value of the temple more than we do.
Mm-hmm.
And how could they not go back?
because they want to study Torah. They want to stay in the desert, study. They want to deal with the rebuilding of everything.
But now, okay, but I'm just saying, but interesting. Look back now and tell me who is better. The Jews that came back or the Jews that stayed in Babylonia?
The Jews that came back.
Right? That's what, right, for sure. That's what we think, right?
Right.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What Talmud do we study?
Babylonian Talmud.
Now, there was a Jerusalem Talmud that was written, actually probably 100 years before the Babylonian Talmud. But what Talmud was, right, we study the Babylonian Talmud. What do we live by? Babylonian Talmud.
Does it mean that if they came back, they couldn't have done a better job?
Oh, it's very interesting.
Possibly.
Right. It's very, but there was a Jerusalem Talmud that was written,
Yes.
right? Yet it's the Babylonian Talmud that we study. And it says at the times of Mashiach it's going to switch around, then we'll follow the Jerusalem Talmud, not the Babylonian Talmud. But forget about it. But for the Jewish people, what was more important? I guess that's really my question. Was it more important that we study that what has kept us through the ages and through the millenniums, right? Is the Talmud?
But if they didn't have the Babylonian Talmud, we would have studied the Jerusalem Talmud, and maybe that would have been expanded if the need arose because there was no Babylonian Talmud.
Well, the Jerusalem Talmud was written first,
Right.
and then the Babylonian Talmud was written after that. Right? It was written like 100 years later. But I have a question. I don't have the answer in my mind. You know, like I've been meaning to talk it over with some of the great sages, and ask them this question. Right? Which one was greater? or what was the right one? Because I believe, like what Norm said, that they probably did not want to go back to the land of Israel, because they said, if we go back to the land of Israel, we're going to spend a lot of our time building stuff, right?
Yeah.
And we're not going to be able to learn as much Torah. We're here, we're able to study Torah. Let's continue studying Torah.
Yeah. Why close the yeshiva?
Right. Right. It's a fact. It's fact. I just look at it back and looking back, right? What has kept us going for the last 2,000 years is the Talmud.
Yeah.
But if they went back, they could have written the Talmud in Israel.
No, because they would have been busy doing other stuff.
Yeah.
Would have taken a little longer.
That's right. So let me ask you a question. How many words of Bittul Torah is it worth?
Can't measure that.
Right? How many words of non-study of Torah is it worth? And the answer is you're correct.
So Levi,
Like, how do you measure that? Right? You can't measure that. Right? One word of Torah is worth the entire world. Right? And so how do you measure those two? Now, how do you say which one is it? Right? To me, it's just a very interesting question. Right? Where does that come from? Right? It always was to me was simple that they should have all gone back. Like, I never understood it. How the ones that didn't go back. And yet you read it, then and really it's kind of like just a small amount went back.
Isn't there what is it in the Siddur when it talks about people that study Torah? What is that? It's in my mind. I can't think of it right now.
Let's say on the righteous people and on the Hasidim and the elderly people, right, and the elders of the house of Israel. Right, God should have the mercy on them. And it's just interesting. It's just an interesting question that I have, is that at the end of the day, which one is, what was a better way?
The reason you can't answer that is because you know what turned out with the path that they took.
Right.
You don't know what would have turned out with the path they could have taken.
Correct. But I'm sure the reason they didn't take that other path is because of the reason that Norm said.
Well, look at the start of Israel in our time.
Right.
That Jews from America did not go to Israel when it was formed, and luckily they didn't, because they get the support of, they could pressure Israel as Americans. They would pressure the United States to support Israel.
So it happened. Right. So it happened to be fascinating, and that's really what began my question. Is like what's the right way to go, right? And just looking back in history, right? What's the proper thing to do?
are the best yeshivas in New York?
So the best yeshivas, there are a lot of good yeshivas both in Israel and in America. So the general rule of principle, the way a person should decide where they live, is where will they be able to come closer to God the most. Right? That's right. That's the barometer that we use. Right? That's the barometer that we use. Right? Where will be able to create relationship with God the closest way. Right? And the answer is wherever that is, that's where we should be living. Right? And so it's not a simple question. But that's the barometer. But it's interesting because, right, that's exactly the question. Right? It's are we, right? We're here to build a relationship with God. Even in Israel today, we're still in exile. Right? We're still in exile. Right? It's not the Mashiach hasn't come yet.
The Mashiach hasn't come, but why is Israel in exile?
Because of no temple.
So they're in exile
Last time
as
I
long
checked.
as there's no temple?
Yeah, sure. Because it's a spiritual exile, right?
Okay.
Right? It's right. We don't the God being in this world the way we want to see it. We don't see it. Right? So it's just we're still in exile. Yeah, but it's just fascinating looking at it. Right? What was the right answer? You know, right? Like what was the way? What's the way to go?
Wasn't it intended that there would always be Torah scholars?
Yes, there has to be.
Yes.
Otherwise, the Jewish people can't exist.
Right, and I think that's where my brain was going when I said I thought there was something in the Siddur that talks about Torah scholars, and maybe that's why they stayed in Babylon, because that was the way to perpetuate
Torah. Absolutely right. That's what I'm saying. That was clearly, I think, the answer. Right? Meaning the 70 years before, they were exiled from Israel. They went to Babylonia, right? And so that's what they had. And they established the great yeshivas, right? Of Surah and Pumbedisa. I mean, there are many great yeshivas in Babylonia. Kind of, it's a fascinating thing.
Okay, well,
Yes.
What the Levite did in order to be rewarded with that position in the temple, and when they went there,
The Levites did. What happened
back.
was when it came with the sin of the golden calf, right? Which the anniversary of the golden calf, by the way, with this past Shabbos, right? Right. Then we commemorated with the fast day, right? They couldn't be on Shabbos; it was on Sunday. Right? Is that when Moses came down with the golden calf, he said, "Mila Shem Elai, whoever is to God, come to me." Right? And when he did that, man, at that point in time, the entire tribe of Levi came running to Moses. You see, and what's fascinating, and why did the entire tribe of Levi come running to Moses?
It's his family. It's a lady. I'm
No.
kidding.
Families are the ones that we usually have the hardest time with. No, it's perfect. I said it. I was in Houston last Wednesday, and he said, I said, all the parshas are about lashon hara, like, right? And it's a perfect time for the summer months when family's busy visiting family. I said, learning how to speak kindly to each other. Yeah, it's
So they were the most God-fearing of all the tribes.
why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because Levi was the son, the second was Reuben. First came Reuben, right? Levi came second.
No, Shimon. Reuven, Shimon, Levi.
Yeah. Well, Shimon and Levi, weren't they the ones who did,
Killed Shechem.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure were.
which was a righteous deed?
But stupid.
Yeah, but still righteous.
No, I'm not sure the two go hand in hand.
Okay, so why were they the
So it's fascinating. The entire Jewish people, when they went down to Egypt, what did the Jewish people do when they were in Egypt? They worked and were enslaved, right?
Except Levi's
Except the Levites, because what were the Levites doing? Studying Torah. So if you ask me why the tribe of Levi gets it right, is because they were studying Torah, right? They had 210 years of Torah study.
When all the other people were schwitzing.
When other people were schwitzing and working.
Yeah.
Because there are two ways. And why do we have to go down to Egypt?
Because Abraham closed the yeshiva.
Close the yeshiva. So we had to learn how to serve God, right? They had to learn how to serve a master, and then you could learn how to serve God.
How to trust in God.
No, serve God. Right? And so what happened is, there are two ways to learn how to serve God. One is to get your head kicked in by the Egyptians, and then you'll learn how to serve a physical master. And once you learn how to serve a physical master, then you could go ahead and then you could learn how to serve God. Right? Meaning, I love the people that tell me, well, Rabbi, I know this is what God wants, but not for me.
Not for me, yeah.
I said, really? I said, God's telling you to do this? You know God says to do this, and you're still not doing that? He said, yeah. I said, man, you're asking to go back to Egypt. Right? You missed the lesson. Right? And how did the tribe of Levi learn the message?
How does who?
The tribe of Levi learned that message by studying Torah. Right? There are two ways to accomplish it. Right? Either being put through the ringer or studying Torah. So they went and they did it through Levi did it through the study of Torah. Everyone else did it through getting their heads kicked in.
And they were so in love with Torah that they couldn't leave Babylon.
Right?
It was a divine mission to stay there, or they choose to.
Who?
The Levi stayed in they,
No. I don't know enough about it. I'm just telling you just some thoughts I had. I it's an interesting question that I've had. And during this time of the year, it's probably a good time to think about it. Right? It's about within the 3 weeks, right? The time for the morning of the destruction of the temple. And it's just an interesting. It's interesting.
Can you study Torah fast enough?
Could you study Torah? Sometimes I feel like, could you study Torah fast enough? I feel sometimes I just want to lie there on a gurney and just say, okay, like put the 2 drips in each arm, like
Ivy,
get the IVs going, and kind of just drip it in, just get it put in.
Where's the best way to do it? It's not bar mitzvah or bar mitzvah.
It's studying Torah. I mean, there's no way to sit down and study.
Alone.
Alone in a group, and just sit down and study. Right, get a charusa, right, get a study partner, right. But there's really is to study, right. You need to study. I mean, today, thank God, there's lots of opportunities to study Torah. Right, you go take a look. There's and you have to be careful. We're giving a lot of stuff on the web. Right, a bunch of it good and a bunch of it not good. And so you want to make sure that you get an authenticated source.
I think it's Chabad who offers classes online.
And H.com, a lot of people do H.com. I usually send people to H.com, AISH.com. Like they have a treasure trove of stuff. Right, just and then there's some great websites, TorahAnytime.com or simpletoremember.com, and those are great websites that just have a lot of Torah classes, and so you're able to go ahead and to learn a lot of Torah that way, and so that way then you could go and you just study. I mean that's so it's just fascinating.
Yeah, the big joy in the story in the Torah.
Yeah, sure.
There is happiness here. There's a whole life.
Right. Okay, good. So we go ahead, and again, Noah with his sons, his wife, and his son's wife with him went into the ark, right? And what does it say? Why did it say Noah and his wife and his sons and their wives? To separate the men and the female, right? Males and females, right? They couldn't have relations on the ark. Okay.
How old were the sons at that time?
100.
They were each 100?
100, 120.
No kidding.
Yeah.
They're young fellas.
Yeah, Noah pushed off having kids because he knew there was going to be a flood, so he didn't want them to. He wanted them to survive.
So now they had a lot of children too. Right?
No, they had no children.
No children yet.
No children.
At the age of 100.
Yeah.
What was their diet? Did they consume meat that night?
Okay, at that point in time, like this, the diet of man in the Garden of Eden, man was given fruits and vegetables that they can eat. They were not allowed to kill animals for food, but if they killed animals for fur or for clothing, right, or for an offering, right, and for permissible things, then they could eat the meat, right, that it shouldn't be wasted or spoiled, right, or if there was roadkill, you could eat the animal.
I thought you said they after the flood, Jews were given permission to eat meat.
After the flood, Jews were permitted to kill animals. Mankind was permitted to kill animals just for meat.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So like I'm making a barbecue. It's like I take an animal, take it to my backyard, slaughter it, put the meat up, and barbecue it.
4th of July.
Yeah, it's right. Very important. You have to learn the rules of barbecuing. Right. Right. You know what I'm saying? So you go ahead and that's what you have.
So I think before the flood, everybody was very well dressed.
What? Man, I was thinking about that. I need a new belt every day. Maybe once a week. Maybe once a week we'd get it where we get it where I want it. Okay, so good. So right, so we talked about. Okay, so because of the waters of the flood. Okay, verse number 8. Right, 33, page 33, chapter 7, verse number 8.
Of the clean animal, of the animal that is not clean, of the birds, and of each living thing that creeps upon the ground. 2 by 2 they came to Noah into the ark, male and female, as God commanded Noah. And
Okay, right. So it was okay. So now it says 2 by 2, they came to Noah. I thought Noah went out to get them.
No.
2 by 2 they came to Noah. So again, so remember we said that God told Noah to bring 2 animals that were straight, right, and that were not sexually compromised, right. That those are the ones that could come into the ark, right. And so therefore, we said Noah wasn't a zoologist. How to know all the animals that were in the world, right? So therefore, he went out because God told him go to do it. And as soon as he went out to get them, all of a sudden the animals started coming. You know, you could make such a great movie about this. Oh my gosh, right? Could you imagine? You know, Noah comes back and says, guys, guess what? They said, what? They said, we have to take 2 of every animal in the world and, 7 pairs, 14 kosher animals. And so they're going, Noah, have you lost your mind? Do you know kosher animals, non-kosher animals? Do you know all the animals in the world? The world is vast. How are you going to find all those animals? And Noah goes, I don't know. God just said we should go, so let's go. And they're going, are you crazy? Like, how are you going to do that? Right? Like, you have like a whole scene of them just beating him up. Right? And Noah just says, guys, this is what God says. Let's go.
Let's go.
And they
isn't that proof that he trusted God?
Yeah, sure. He had to.
But you said before he didn't trust God.
No. It means that there was a little bit. There was a touch of disbelief, right? That's when the water started coming. He didn't go out, right? And then Noah goes out, right? And then they turn the corner, and they're marching down Main Street. Where all the animals, right, 2 by 2 coming to Noah, right? That's kind of the the storyline.
You just gotta make this movie, Rabbi.
Yeah, what would be the title?
The real story.
Yeah, but can you read the script?
The script is written.
This
This is the script.
Now, but it will be the way you're gonna put it down. So that's why we're gonna work with that. So we contribute like what, half million, and then we start business. It's gonna be the data.
Yeah, we have to get the movie rights. Alrighty, we can't copyright the book. And so it could be something that could be really amazing.
You should call it Fingerprints. There should be several movies. One for like 52 movies.
Alrighty, good. Okay, 2 by 2 they came to Noach into the ark, male and female, as God had commanded Noach. Okay, verse number 10.
And it came to pass after the 7-day period that the waters of the flood were upon the earth.
Okay, right, the flood has officially started. Okay, good. Joy, verse 11.
In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day of the month, on that day all the fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of the heavens were opened, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights.
Okay, so what day did it happen?
600th year of Noah's life, and the 2nd month, 17th day of the month.
Okay, good. And what's the 2nd month?
It's not February.
Not February. Good. Okay.
Nissan.
Well, you should know. Okay, so let me just tell you something about that joke that you just said. Very important to know. Does anyone know the names of the Hebrew months of the year?
Sort of. I know Tishrei is the first one.
Tishrei is not the first one.
I know the leap month.
And what's the leap month?
Adar too.
Other two, good. Okay, good.
Nissan is the first one.
Nisan is the first month. Okay, what's the first month? Nisan. Iyar. Sivan. Tammuz. Av. Elul. Tishrei. Cheshvan. Kislev. Teves. Shvat. Adar. Other two. Now, does anyone know where the names of the Hebrew month come from?
Pagan.
Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Teves, Shvat, Adar. Come from.
Yeah, am I right?
No. Well, yes, well, sort of. It comes from more than okay, yeah. It comes from the Babylonians.
Really?
Yep. Babylonian names of the month.
So what did we call them before we were in Babylon?
Oh, good question. What did we call them before we came to Babylonia?
Echad.
Very good.
First month, second month.
What? First month, second month, third month, fourth month, fifth month, sixth month, seventh month, eighth month, 9th month, 10th month, 11th month, 12th month. That's what they were called. Okay? Right? They didn't have names, they had numbers. And Mark, even you could remember that, right?
In order.
I want you to know, as a kid, I remember walking to shul with my father in Shabbos, and would say, "Okay, let's go over the names of the Hebrew months," and I'd sit there breaking my head, like trying to get them all down. You know, what was the name of the Hebrew months? You know, Nisan, Iyar, right? Just going through all the months, and get like till today. I remember that, like walking to shul, like going through like all these interesting facts. So there's two questions. Question number one is if the Torah began with the name of the months being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, why ruin a good thing?
Yeah, really. Why did we?
Right? Why don't we just use what the Torah says? Right? What the Torah uses, right, for the months.
First
Number
month, second month, third month.
and fourth month, right? Fifth month, sixth month, right? Number two is that besides that, right? We don't, in Judaism, we don't take things from the non-Jews.
Why not?
Because we have everything we need. Right? God gave it to us, right? So we have the master copy. So what are we taking from the non-Jews?
Why are we calling it?
So why are we calling the names of the months, right, by the Babylonian months?
Does it remind us of when we were stuck in Babylon?
Go ahead.
We were. Okay, I'm going to my.
Yeah, go.
Okay, when we were. When we had the 70 years in Babylon.
70.
Was 70? Was it 70?
70. 70.
70, yeah. The 70 years in Babylon, it reminds us how he rescued us from that.
Oh, so very good. So the answer is that we took on the Babylonian names of the months in order to remind ourselves that at one point in time, the Jewish people were in exile in Babylonia, and God came and saved us from Babylonia.
Okay, then why do we use the monks' numbering of the paragraphs incorrectly?
That's a great question. Okay, we'll hold that question. Let's
I
finish
will.
with the month, then we'll come back to
Okay.
that. That's a great question. So again, the first thing is, right, that we go ahead and we have the names of the month, right? We go ahead and we have the months, right? So we have the Babylonian names. So don't work too hard on remembering the Babylonian names, because when God comes and takes us out of the Roman exile, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to change the name of the Hebrew months to
Numbers.
the Roman names. Why?
To remind us.
To remind us of the great miracles that God did when He takes us out of Rome. Right?
We're
Right?
still in
We
Rome.
have the Babylonian names in order to remember the great miracles that God did when He took us out of Babylonia. Right? We're going to have the Roman names, right, in order to remind us of the great miracles God will do to take us out of the Roman exile.
Even at the time of Mashiach, we're going to start counting January, February, March, April.
Yes, sir. And actually, what's quite fascinating, by the way, is the whole Roman calendar that we use today is kind of as little is a little fakat, and I'll tell you why. Just very interesting, right? What's interesting? Does anyone know what month is October?
10,
10th. What number is December?
12.
12. Now let me ask you a question. What does October mean?
It's 8.
8. And December? 10. So why is October
Because
the 10th month and December the 12th month, right? When October means 8, right? Right? And
November
then
is 9.
December is 10. What?
And November would be 9.
Right? No, really, right? That's what it should be.
Yeah, the emperors, did they want to have?
Ah, so very good.
Yeah.
So Julius Caesar and Augustus wanted to have months named after themselves.
I listened to this lecture.
Yeah, they didn't. This is Nachmanides. This
No, but
no. This last week.
If I don't-
Yeah. Okay. So that's what you get. You get rewarded for listening to it. You know something, right? Is that? But you have to teach it to somebody, right? Because once you learn it, if you teach it, then you remember it, right? So Julius and August Caesars, right, wanted to have months named after themselves, but they didn't want the winter months. They wanted the summer months.
That's how we got July.
So we got July and August stuck in there. And I kid you not, my friends. This is too good to make up.
And you know why August has 31 days? Because Augustus didn't want to be short. He took one from February.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
He did?
Emma's.
Yeah.
Augustus is of the gods, so I guess didn't they think that he was God?
No, that's how you get the secular calendar. It's an amazing thing. So I've always had the question that when Mashiach comes, are we going to take the Gregorian calendar and stick it back to, right, the way it should be? Right? You know why it's called the Gregorian calendar, right?
Pope Gregory.
Pope Gregory, right? But when Pope Gregory lived?
Around the time of Washington.
I think a little earlier, like 1500s, I thought. Was Washington?
There are 10 days in 1754, I could be off, that were taken off the
They were taken off the calendar, right? Because it was slippage,
Right,
right? They had actually fixed the calendar.
right.
You know who loves this stuff, by the way? My uncle. Remember the brilliant one,
Yes.
the scientist? He loved all this calendar stuff. He really gets into. Like he loves all this stuff. Remember that's why, right? They put in a leap year, right? Once every 4 years they put an extra day in, is to do it.
Do you
right?
know why seconds are called seconds, like on a clock?
Why?
Because first are minutes, and then there's a second way to divide it.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You should
Easy.
connect your uncle with.
I'm sorry.
You should know Art Scroll has a book that came out recently. I haven't read it, but Rabbi David Feinstein, I think, did a whole thing on the Jewish calendar. The Jewish calendar is a fascinating thing. Okay, so we go ahead till we have August, and we have right. So we have 12 months of the year, right? So, but before then it was month 1, month 2. But just by the way, also just in case you think about it, what are the Jewish names of the days of the week?
They're numbered.
Breakneck.
Yom Rishon,
Yom
right? First day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day,
and
Shabbat, right? Those are the days of the week, right? Do you know where your names Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday come from? What? Pagans, and what did the pagans name them after?
Gods.
God. Sunday is after the sun god, Monday is after the moon god, right? Thursday is after Thor, right? It's
Wednesdays after vote time.
yeah.
Which one's after?
Wednesday.
Wednesday is vote time.
Vote time.
Norse god.
Wednesday's
Was
named
it?
after.
No, it was a Norse god.
How did they get to Wednesday?
Votan's day.
Right, okay, so it's very interesting. So in Yiddish, they made up their own words. They wouldn't use the names of these gods. I'm calling something Sunday. He's like you're commemorating the sun god, and Monday, right? Like it's so they call it Sonntag, Montag, right? Donnerstag, right? Donnerstag, Mittwoch, right? And Freitag, whatever. That's like right. Right, they go. Right, they give in order not to have the names of the gods. But that's what the names of the calendar. So now we have So now we have the right now we have on the 600th year of Noah's life, which was what year in the Jewish calendar? 600 was 1656. Yeah, 1656, right? Okay, in the second month, on the 7th day of the month. So what was the second month?
Sivan.
No. It's either Iyar or it's Cheshvan. Right? So the two opinions, right? Because was it the second month, right, from Rosh Hashanah, or the second month from Pesach? And then so we say it was Cheshvan. Right? And by the way, you know what's interesting about the Hebrew month of Cheshvan? Bentzi. What's another name for the month of Cheshvan? Mar Cheshvan. Why is Cheshvan called Mar Cheshvan? What does Mar mean?
Mar's an honorific. It's like Mister, isn't it?
Mar, meaning, but it also means bitter.
Bitter.
Mar Cheshvan, bitter Cheshvan. Why is Cheshvan bitter? Because it's the only holiday. It's the only month in the Jewish calendar that doesn't have a Jewish holiday.
What month is that in English?
It usually comes out around October, November. Okay, and so therefore you have Mar Cheshvan, bitter Cheshvan. One of the reasons it doesn't have any holidays is because that was the day that the flood started. Right, that's the day when the world was flooded and wiped out.
It was also in anticipation of Thanksgiving.
Right. So it's just interesting. So second month. So you have the second month on the 17th day of the month, right? On that day, all the fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of the heavens were opened, and rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Why did it rain for 40 days and 40 nights?
To make sure everything was flooded.
I like that one.
No.
40 stands for something.
God wanted it to rain for 40 days and 40 nights.
That's correct. That's a good observation.
Why?
It's not because then there was another 150 days when the water kept on getting higher and higher. Meant the water from the depths came up.
Does it mean something, completion or something, 40 years?
Right? No, go ahead. So there are lots of 40s in the Torah, right? When do you have 40s?
40 years in
40 years in the desert. Moses was on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. Jewish people in the desert for 40 years. Right? The spies went to the land of Israel for 40 days. Right? You keep on seeing 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40.
Why is that?
It's a great question.
Just a coincidence? I'm sure not.
Does Moses also say he fasted for 40 days and...
But he was on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. Didn't eat. Right? So,
What's so special about 40?
What's so special about 40? That's my question. What's so special about 40?
Well, I'm Jewish. I got to ask a question. If you ask a question, I ask a question return.
Yeah, but yes, that's a different question back.
Is it something with this Hebrew spelling of the word 40?
Well, it happens to be interesting, right? Because, right, it's how do you write 40 in Hebrew? What? Abaim. Or if you want to write it, let me ask you. I want to show you something just super cool. Okay, you came tonight, the week of July 4th. You showed up. I'm going to make it what you want.
Okay.
Okay. Now we're going to do a little brain surgery. Okay.
I'm not going to say Shane side.
You're going to say what?
Shane side.
It's about time. It in English, when we want to write name, what do?
Capitalize it.
Well, we write, but we use letters.
Yes.
When we want to write a number, what do?
We use
These
numbers.
digits.
The digits.
We wrote Arabic numbers.
Okay. In every language, you have that. Right? You have a digit counting system, and you have a letter writing.
No, not everything. Hebrew is different.
Oh, thank you. Hebrew is different. How is Hebrew different?
It's both the same.
Both the same.
Letters and numbers.
Letters and numbers are the same.
Is it really?
Yeah. So that's why Right? If you want to write 40, how do you write 40? A mem.
Mem?
Mem. The letter mem is 40. The Hebrew letters Aleph is 1, Beis is 2, Gimel is 3, Dalet is 4, Hey is 5. What?
Just have to look at the margin.
All right. Okay, no. Then after 10 it goes 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Then it goes 200, 300, 400.
You just lose one letter. The
Just one letter, just one letter. And that's how you get it. So now, and that's why, right, there's such as we do a lot of things of numerical values of things. Right? So what's the gematria? Right? If you've heard the word gematria, which means the numerical value, because numerical value. So now let me ask you a question. Are letters really letters that double as numbers? Or are they really numbers that double as letters?
Yes.
Those letters.
Is the answer.
Yes.
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 Did you follow my question? Right? Are they really letters that double as numbers? Or are they numbers that double as letters?
Numbers, doubles letters.
Follow my question? Does mem really mean 40, but we'll also give it a sound called Or is it really a sound called right? It also is a number, it equals number 40.
I would think it's the sound first, the number second.
You think it's a sound first and number second. Why?
Because that's how we use it the most, and that's how it has the most meaning.
Okay, I can agree with your first statement. I cannot agree with your second statement.
Okay.
Okay? Means we certainly use it that way, right? We look at the Torah, read the Torah, right? The Torah, right, is made out of words, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm going to ask you the following question. Let's say I taught you how to read numbers. Is the Torah numbers that double as letters? Or are they letters that double as numbers?
You want me to say that numbers double as letters, but I don't see that.
Correct. So let's take a little look. What is the first word in the Torah? Bereishis. Okay? So instead of reading the word as Bereishis, read it as 2, 200, 1, 300, 10, 400. So for example, bear with me. The first number in the Torah is 2, right?
Yes.
Why is the first number in the Torah 2?
Because Aleph is God and Aleph is 1.
Aleph is God and Aleph is 1. So why doesn't the Torah start with 1?
That's the beginning.
Mind you, it's a beginning. And mind you, the 10 Commandments, what's the first letter in the 10 Commandments? Aleph. That starts with an Aleph. Yet the Torah doesn't start with an Aleph, it starts with a base.
It's for man and man too. I just.
No, okay. You didn't get to that part in the other lecture.
I didn't get that.
And you're slacking off. Why would you think the world would start off with a 2 and not a 1? God is 1. Should it start off with 1?
Because we are two.
But it's not
It's
about
God and
it's
us.
not about God. It's God's creating.
Yeah, okay, good, right. God's creating. Okay, and therefore, in God creating, and it's about us. Therefore, what?
We have to be together.
Or
two of us.
2 tells you that the 1 of God, all of a sudden now there's something outside of God. There's a 2.
Or there's man and something outside of man.
This God. Man isn't around yet. They don't come till day 6.
Oh, okay.
Okay, right? Okay, right? So, right? Because before there's a world, what is there?
Nothing.
Nothing. What does nothing mean?
Nothing.
No.
Except God.
When you go to space, is there nothing in space?
That's not true. There is stuff in space.
Okay, so let's say I'm going to give you, a square, a cube of 10 by 10, and I put it there and I mark the boundary in space. Is there nothing inside that?
Yes.
Probably nothing.
Yes.
Probably a vacuum.
You're correct, the vacuum. That is incorrect. Because there's nothing in the vacuum, but there is a space. Following?
Yes.
There's space. Who created space?
God.
Okay, so before there was space, what was there? God. Was there anything else?
No.
No.
Isn't it? God
Right.
was the first thing before the first thing.
Yeah, of course. Right. And so therefore, so remember, God existed, nothing else existed. So there wasn't anything. So the first thing God had to do when he created the world was what?
Make space.
Make space.
Oh.
Have room for it.
Right? Have room for the world to exist. Right? In Kabbalah they call that Tzimtzum. And God has sort of had to
Tzimtzum.
withdraw himself and leave room for a world.
And
Because
that's not a Chinese dish.
right.
Right.
It sounds a little bit like that.
Oh, we got too much
That's
Right?
sugar in mine.
Right. So what happened was you take a look, right? You take a look, and there's God, and there's nothing else. Nothing else exists. So the world, the Torah starts with a base, with the two. Why is it saying two? Saying because automatically by God creating something outside of himself, there has to be two. You got it? So that's the first number. What's the number 200 symbolize?
I forgot.
So it's interesting, if you take a look. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. 200, 300, 400. After nothing more after 400. Nothing more after 400. Okay? Only up to 400. That's because the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 are all the numbers that you really need in this world. So the most complete that 2 could be is 200. Right? Right? Because that's all 2, 20, 200.
Mm-hmm.
So you go 2 to 200. And what's the third number? 1. Why is the third number 1? Because our job is to bring the 2 back to 1. You following?
Yes.
Right?
Bring the 200 back to 1?
Yeah. Because the 200 is the max of the 2, right? Which is God and something else. And what's our job in this world? To bring everything back to God. Right? We go around the world, we take a cup of water, and what do? We make a blessing. And what happens when we make the blessing?
We sanctify the word.
We sanctify the water. And what does it mean, sanctify the water?
We attribute it to God.
Not we just attribute it to God. What do we
Thank
do?
God for
Make
it.
it holy.
We make it holy, but we infuse the water with holiness.
Okay.
Okay? So we put godliness into the water. So we take the 2 and we turn it back to 1. Right? And as we go through the world, everything we touch, everything we do, our job is to take it and to sanctify it and take the holiness and take the physical and infuse it with the holiness to bring it back to the 1.
So you do that by saying Shakal?
Yeah, you make a blessing. That's exactly what you're doing.
I didn't realize that.
Right? You're bringing the world back to 1. Right? You bring the world back to godliness. And now you go ahead and now you've created, right? You've created something that's infused with holiness. Right? And now you can read the entire Torah this way.
Wait, they didn't finish there. Why are you jumping to 300 after
Right. So about 300 and so there's more and more and more and more. There's a lot more, right? Because 300 is the 3, right? And then 4,
the maximum of 3?
the maximum of 3, right? You have to understand what the number 3 stands for, right? But that's what every letter. So you have to understand that in Judaism, the numbers really the letters are really first numbers and they are second letters.
So what's 40?
Good. Now back to right to our show, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, why?
I
So
was-
why 40 days? Right? What does 40 stand for?
Mem.
Mem, letter mem. So it happens to be interesting about the letter mem. What's one of the interesting characteristics about the letter mem?
It's the middle of the alphabet, isn't it?
It is letter of the alphabet.
It's an open
Right? It depends.
depends on
And
how
mem
you
is a
put it,
closed
yeah.
mem. But what else is interesting about the mem?
It's made of a chaf vav.
What?
It's a chaf vav.
Okay, it's a chaf and a vav, right? Which is interesting,
Oh, chicken and
right? Because it's made of two other letters, right? It's a chaf and then a vav, which is interesting. What's the numerical value of chaf and a vav? 26. And what's 26? The name of God. Okay. The mem, the exposed letter of the mem, is equal to the hidden value of the word mem. How do you write mem?
And slanted.
No, mem. But if you had to spell it out, for example, right? Like I give the example, use like this. How do you write the letter aleph? You know what? Aleph. How do you write the letter aleph? What?
The printed letter?
The printed letter aleph. Or right? How do you write it?
It's a yud.
You write it like this. Okay, that's how you write the word aleph. You got it? You see? Right? You see how that is? Right? You would aleph. For example, how do you write the word C in English language?
S-E-E.
C. No.
SCA.
You write the English word C. You write it C-E-E.
No, the letter.
The letter. How do you write the letter D?
D-E-E.
D-E-E. Right? Right. Okay. Right. You write out the letter. Right. Very important to know, by the way. In anagrams, bananagrams, this is important words to know. Okay. It's a very important on Shabbat. You got to make sure you get the game down. Okay. So the aleph. So what's interesting, the aleph. So what we call this is the revealed. This is what we call the revealed part.
There's other.
Yeah, it is, okay. Here we go. This is the revealed part. That's the hidden part. You got it?
No, I don't know what that means.
Okay. When I tell you write the letter aleph,
Yes.
this is what you see. Right? For example, the word bays. Right? How do you write the word bays? Bays, yud, saf. Right? Again, that's how you write out the word bays, right? You got it?
Okay.
What's the revealed part? What's the hidden part?
Base is
The letter base is the revealed part. The yud saf is the hidden part.
Okay.
Okay, right? That's right. So every letter is like that. Okay, are you with me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. So for example, the word aleph, okay? Aleph lamed pei. If I write the word aleph lamed pei, what's interesting about the letter aleph is it has no sound. Every other letter in the Hebrew alphabet has a sound. A bay, an ayin does. The Sephardim have an ayin. It's a guttural sound, which is probably we Ashkenazim don't. We've lost it. The Sephardim are more right on this. Because you don't need two letters that are soundless. Right. So what's interesting is that you have an aleph, but if you write aleph lamed pei, and so what does aleph stand for? One. And who's one? God. So aleph is God, right? Which is interesting, and that's why aleph has no sound. As it represents God. There's nothing to say. It's just God. Right? Okay, you there? You with me?
Yes.
Okay, now, what's interesting is if you write out the word aleph lamed pei, so how would you read the word aleph lamed pei? No. How would you, what would that word spell? Besides aleph. Aluf.
General.
What does aluf mean?
Leader. General.
Aluf means general.
Boss.
Right? Aluf means general. Who's the general?
God.
God. What else how else could you read the word aleph? Elef. What's that? 1,000. Right? That's 1 to the max. Right, you following? Okay, so now you have, okay, you got it? Okay, so that's the Aleph. And now you have the Beis and Gimel, they just all, right, they all go ahead, etc., go down. Right, okay. Right, Beis, right, is a bias, is a house. Right, this way you have a roof, right, there's all these things. What's interesting to note, when you write the word mem, what? It's double. You write out the word mem by mem. Okay, that's how you write it. Which means that the revealed side and the hidden side are the same. Okay?
So how's that significant to
Yeah.
Oh, how's that significant?
for every 40, just 40 this, 40 that?
No. So what's interesting is 40, right? 40 is completion. Okay, 40 is completion. So what happens is you have, how many months is a woman pregnant? 9. And how many weeks is that?
40 weeks.
40 weeks. When does a fetus become a life? 40 days.
40 days?
40 days.
Alive and fully, it has a soul in 40
Yeah,
days.
that's 48 days when its soul gets connected to the body.
40 days.
40 is always completion.
Yeah, but it's hard to measure that
Yeah,
40 days.
don't worry about measuring it. God's got it under control. But thank you for your concern. It's very important that you have that down. I want to make sure you got it.
He's an accountant.
I know. I said he loves numbers. You don't have to worry about it. God's got it. God's got it. He's good on this one.
So after 40 days, the embryo has a soul.
Yes. And that's why it's actually quite fascinating, right? It's major discussion, right? When does baby start living? And so Judaism says 40 days, so when it gets its soul.
But doesn't Talmud say 2 weeks or something like that because they want to be safe or something?
Nope. Not that I know. I mean, the Talmud says, the Talmud has a discussion, right? There are 2 opinions. One is 3 days, and one is 3 days after conception, and one says 40 days. Right? So we follow the 40 day.
That's what Rashi said?
The Talmud. Now these are Rashi's rabbis.
There's two of mine,
Yeah. So that's right.
Rashi's rabbis.
Right, Rashi, right. So you go ahead and you have, right? So you go ahead and you have 40 days, conception.
That'd be great.
That's when the soul comes in. The people in the time of the flood, what were they doing? Sexual immorality, idolatry, and adultery, right? And adultery, murder. Now let me ask you a question.
Stealing, right?
Stealing, right? And stealing was what it got sealed on, right? That's what the decree to die got sealed on. 40 days. They've created bastards. They forced God to create what we call mamzerim, bastards. Okay? And just I just want to put out a public service announcement. The only what we call in mamzer in Hebrew, okay, the Hebrew word mamzer, bastard. The technical definition of a mamzer is a married woman who has a child from somebody other than her husband.
I thought the baby was a mamzer.
What?
The baby was a mamzer.
Correct.
You just said the married woman.
That baby that gets born.
Yeah.
Right, from the married woman who's getting right, baby being born from somebody who's not their father, not the husband.
And if
of
she's
the married,
not married and
has a child out of wedlock, so it's a child out of wedlock. It's not a mamzer.
and if she's divorced or widowed,
It makes as long as she is not married, it is not a mamzer. Okay, right? And a mamzer.
That fellow in the desert who was the son of the woman who got fooled into thinking the taskmaster was
Right.
her husband, he was a mamzer.
Potentially, it was a non-Jew, so therefore the laws might be a little different.
No, if he's a non-Jew, it doesn't matter.
It's a question.
Ah.
It's a question.
So there's rules for Jews and rules for non-Jews.
Sure.
So is Leviticus written for the Jews or for the non?
For the Jews. The Torah is written for the Jews.
Now it makes sense.
Right?
The word makes sense.
But the Torah is written for the Jews. Right? So that's the technical definition of a mamzer, nothing else. And that's why, Aaron, as you pointed out, right, King David's father, right, didn't realize that he was the father of David. And so he thought that King David's mother, right, had relations with somebody, not him. And therefore King David was a mamzer. That's what he thought.
Then Jesse realized it after he was in
And then Jesse, again, that's one of my movies I would make such a great scene, right? Like for 28 years, you think your son is a mamzer, right? And he's like the bad family secret, you know. He sends him out to the field and right doesn't want to talk to him, right? Keeps him out when nobody can see him, right? And then he gets the message that Samuel, the leader of the Jewish people, wants to visit you with all your children at home, right? So he goes and he brings all his 7 sons. You know, and Samuel walks in and says, okay, well, one of your sons is going to become king, right? And what does Jesse think? Oh my gosh, right? This is like amazing, right? And so he goes ahead and he brings the first son, strapping, handsome. And Samuel thinks, this looks like it'd be a good king. And God says, this is not gone. Next. Then comes number 2. No. Number 3. And again, oh wow, he looks really intelligent. And then God says to Samuel one of the greatest words. My thoughts are not your thoughts. Don't think you know me, says God. Right? Man looks at the outside and I look at the inside. Right? I desire the heart. Right? And he says, nope. Right? And he goes, okay, here comes son number 6. Nope. So Jesse says, okay, it's son number 7. Amazing, brings son number 7 in, and Samuel says, nope. And then Samuel says those famous immortal words, which I can only imagine, right? Which is he goes, do you have any more sons by any chance? Now let me ask you a question. If he goes ahead, right, if he was to go ahead and right, if you were to get a message that the prophet, right, the chief honcho, wants to visit you and all your children, would you make sure that all your children would be there?
But David wasn't his child.
Oh, so he thought David was his child. So he goes, he brings all his kids. And then all of a sudden, Samuel says to him, do you have any other kids? Like, you're holding back on me? Could you imagine what Jesse, like, the thought process of what Jesse begins to think?
He was a really, really holy guy.
Right. Jesse's one of the 4 people in the world that died without sin. Can you imagine what Jesse is thinking? Holy schmagoki. Is it possible that what my wife said was really true? Is it really possible that it's my son?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my Hashem. Right? OMH. Right as it begins to dawn on him. Right, that oh my gosh, that this really might be my son.
You mentioned 28 years, or how many years of like treating him kind of like garbage?
28 years.
Yeah, this is kind of awkward. You know what I mean? Like
it's and he goes, yeah, I have one more son.
Oh,
like right, and so Samuel says, okay, well, go get him. David, Samuel wants to see you.
Samuel Ho.
Right? And Samuel comes, in comes Samuel. In comes David. And Samuel looks at him, gets up, right, I think bows to him. And if you're Jesse, right, you're sitting there, right? What are you thinking? Can you imagine such a scene?
No.
Right. Could you imagine something like that going on?
Enough to make you cry.
Enough to be, oh my gosh, it'd be like.
It's like we know it's safe to be so shocked to go.
Yeah, it would just blow your brains.
Doesn't this point out the importance of understanding Hebrew too? Because David was a roeh, he was a shepherd.
Right.
And the word roeh has so many different meanings as you go through the various places in the Bible. And it, you think, okay, shepherd's pretty lowly, but really it had more meaning to it in that a lot of the shepherds were very strong people.
All
And righteous.
The leaders of the Jewish people started off as shepherds. You know why?
Why?
Because you can't be the leader of the Jewish people till you learn to care about every single sheep.
Yeah.
Right? The job of a shepherd is to care about every single sheep. And the job of the Jewish leader is to care about every single Jew. Right? And so therefore, right, that's why the training ground was shepherds. Why? Second of all, because when you're a shepherd, you get a chance to, what are you doing all day? Kind of quite mindless activity, right?
Yeah, mind numbing.
Right? So what do you do with your mind?
You write poetry.
You connect to God.
True.
Right? You sit there, right, and you know, right, when you, right, I give you an example. Later in the summer, we're going to go on vacation. So always like going on vacation where there's the beauty of the world, right? What Hashem has created. And you could sit there and just see the grandeur of God. Right? It's a humbling experience. Right? I remember when for my 20th anniversary, I took my wife to Costa Rica, and we sat on the beach, right, on the Pacific side, and you just sat there, and you heard the waves come roaring in, come crashing on the beach, right, from 3,000 miles, right? I mean, right, they haven't been touched, the Pacific Ocean, right? Largest ocean is coming from the other end of, right, the other end of, I don't know where it comes from, right? It's, what is it, Australia? I forget what it is. But on the other side, right? And you hear the majesty of every wave. And you think of every drop that God has created. And then you think of the sand on the seashore that God has created to capture the waves from not making it further inland. Right? It's a pretty incredible stuff. Right? What God has created. And just being able to see the majesty, right? The majesty of God's creation, right? It's just really something that's truly remarkable, right? You get a chance to really to see that, right? It's to appreciate that. Getting back to our 40 days, so the world had inconvenienced God to create souls of bastards. And so measure for measure, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. 40, right, 40 is completion, right, it's whole, right, and that's why both sides of it, mem is also 40.
So
Right?
the flood was going on for 40 days.
The flood was going on for way more than 40 days, it was for a whole year.
For the whole year.
It was a whole year, right?
It rained for 40
It
days.
rained for only 40 days and 40 nights.
Oh, and it just stayed.
Not
there.
stayed.
Well, you said it was flooded for 40.
Yeah, so where does the water come from?
From down below, not above.
So the two places it comes from, right?
Yeah.
Right, doesn't it say here? Right? In the second month, the 70th day of the month, on that day, all the fountains of the great
came
deep
out.
burst forth,
Yeah.
and the windows of the heavens were opened. And we got it from both directions.
So it was rain. The windows of the heaven would be rain, right?
And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights.
Yeah, but also.
It rained for 40 days and 40 nights. Right? But it was really the water from underneath was one
Was coming up.
was coming up. That was the one that really did them in.
Well, you said that the water from underneath what?
And the earth. The water of the depths. I don't know if you know this, but you're actually walking on water. But in Dallas, there are not many basements. Why aren't there basements?
The water table's too high.
Water table's too high. Right? The water table, I think, is only 5 feet deep. Right, so the water, right, so the water table, right, so the water table is that's the water of the depths, and it's actually a fascinating story with with King David also, right, that the water of the depths, there was a pakak, there was a plug. right? And the water started coming up and was going to flood the world because somebody removed the plug.
So it was coming from heaven.
So no, it was coming from underneath. So he said,
Underneath.
yeah. So he said, whoever knows what to do. So they took on a piece of pottery. He wrote God's name on it. He threw it into the depths and plugged up the hole again.
That's your business.
What?
That's your business.
Oh, it's on the pot. Yeah. So it's okay. Oil's good.
So what actually physically
The water
happened?
brings
If
it
the
out.
rivers, the seas, the under the
Water
earth,
racking.
where the water came from?
Right? No, God created the water. Right? God created the water.
The water which came from all the rivers and seas and the flood
God created
actually-
all that. Yeah, it all came up. And by the way, if you ever want to see just God's majesty, right? Just look at how God creates the water and the rain, right? I just want to show you something fascinating. The air that we breathe, right? Right? How does it get cleaned?
Trees do
Rains.
Rains.
Rain and trees.
Rains. Right? That's why if you ever look at your yard, you ever have like a little like rain, like kind of like a rain shower, and then the rain dries up and you have all these white marks on your car. And you say, why are there white marks? It's just rain. It's pure rainwater.
It's not pure.
And it's pure rainwater ain't so pure. Why? Because it pulled out the
Mineral
impurities from
hardness.
right. No, it pulled up the impurities from the air.
Yeah.
The snow also
Now-
purifies. Yes.
So right. So now what happens? Now the rain comes down on the ground. So God now has to clean the water. So what does He do?
Filters it through the
Filters
ground.
it through the ground. And then where does the water go? And it goes into the streams. Right? And now again, but the streams you have special sand on it, right? On the bottom, right, to make sure that it holds the water. And then you go to the edge of the seashore. Right? And there you have the mighty waves. Right? You have tides coming in and out. So what does God do? He has special sand on the edge of the continent. And what does that? What did that sand do? When the tides come in, it absorbs the water and expands. Right, so it cushions, it acts as a cushion for the water going in and water going out.
Yeah.
Right? You see, you look at how God has constructed the greatest water system in the world.
Walk on the beach at low tide, it's solid.
Right. It's just the whole thing is just like just nuts. Right? I mean, like it's so crazy. And my kids would say it's sick.
Genius.
Yeah, right? It's amazing. Right? You sit there and you see this, and it's just wow. Right? And how God has created the world. Right? So 40 days, it rains for 40 days, 40 nights. You know why? Because we bothered God to create past. We bothered God.
We bothered.
God
Yeah.
to create mamzerim, to create bastards.
And
Okay, question of that.
Yeah.
How's it
It's-
manifested?
Well,
Is Ishmael should be considered as a bastard?
no, not at all.
No.
No, not at all.
Why? Because he was a
Jesus might have.
a-
Not Yishmael. Yishmael was married. Abraham married.
Mm.
Abraham married.
to Sarah.
Married. Hagar. He was allowed to marry
Abraham
two.
married, oh yeah, because he could have two wives.
He could have two wives.
But he married Hagar after Sarah died.
That also he took her back after Sarah dies.
They get divorced and they
So
get
he was
that.
married to her before he had Ishmael.
Yeah, sure.
So
Right, Sarah
when
gave to him as his
says,
wife.
"Take my way to David,"
Right, take my maid servant and
she meant marry her.
of course.
So that's what take me, okay, that's,
Yeah, of
the
course.
verbiage was literal.
Yeah, of course. That's what happened. Yeah, Yishmael, it's amazing. What was your question?
How he was bothered with creation of this?
How was God bothered?
Yeah. How? I mean, why he reacted that way? I mean, it was because he just was angered by them. And
No, because it's the problem. You have a God mamzerim. The Talmud, there's a verse that says mu'uvos la yochel liskay. What is crooked you can't make straight. So the Talmud says, what does that mean? Something that is crooked you can't make straight. And Talmud says that's somebody who creates a bastard, right? Because a bastard did nothing wrong, right? Right? It was by his parents messing up, right? And now it becomes a place where now he can't marry into the Jewish people.
How did it get to be so that if you marry a non-Jewish woman and have a child, he's considered a mamzer? How come
No, yeah, that's not. Well, hold up. What did you say?
Yeah, that's what they told me.
What did they tell you?
That if you marry a non-Jew,
Right.
and have a child with her, the child's considered a mamzer.
That's absolutely not true. Child's not Jewish, but it's not a mamzer.
Ah,
So why can't they marry the mamzer again? Because you could,
No, because a mamzer cannot marry a regular Israelite.
but they could, the Israelite could marry like Ruth, a convert,
Sure.
right? When that was David's great.
A convert's not a problem.
But why would the mamzer? Because even if both parents were Jewish,
Yeah.
and now the kids got so much for the whole idea of the children not paying
The sins of the parents,
father.
right?
Is that like an exception?
This is right. But again, in the Torah it says children do pay for it. One place in the Torah it says that children do pay for the sins of their parents, and one place it says they don't. Okay, right? Okay, but right, but this is a classic case. The kid did nothing wrong.
No.
Right? They have to find another mom to marry.
And both parents were Jewish. It's out.
That's true. to
What-
both moms.
what-
Probably a lot
why
of-
did Jesse
probably a lot.
think his wife cheated on him?
Okay, I'll give you the 30-second story because it's just an amazing story.
Give me 20 seconds.
Okay, 20 seconds. It's amazing. So what happened was King David's father, Jesse, was a holy, holy man.
Yeah.
Okay, right? He was one of the 4 people in the world that died without sin. And what happened was he began to learn the section about whether a Moabite convert is allowed to marry into the Jewish people.
That would have been Ruth.
That would be Ruth.
And that
right?
would be him then.
And that would then be, and he'd be the second generation from that. And what happened was, remember, Boaz,
Ruth was his mom?
Ruth was his grandmother.
Grandma.
But remember, Ruth became pregnant by Boaz, who was the leader of the generation. And Boaz said, it says in the Torah that a Moabite convert cannot come into the Jewish people for 10 generations. So he says that refers to the Moabite males, not the Moabite females. Why? Because the Torah says they can't because they didn't bring out bread to you. Right? When you came through, he says, then whose job is it to bring out the food?
Women.
No, the woman's job is to cook it. Right? The man's job is to bring it out. He says, so therefore, since it gives this reason, so you see that it's really only the Moabite males that can't marry him, not the Moabite females. Okay? And people didn't, it was not a well-known law. Boaz said it, and that was the law. But people didn't like it. Man said, "What are you talking about there?" And then to boot, Boaz marries Ruth, and the next morning,
He died.
Boaz is dead. And what do all the little tongue waggers say?
She was pregnant
Teaches
before.
teaches him right for marrying, right? For marrying her, right? What's he doing?
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, so Jesse's around. Jesse reads the law. And he goes, maybe Boaz was wrong.
Maybe he shouldn't have married.
Maybe he shouldn't have married Ruth. He says, and if he's not allowed to marry Ruth, that means then I am not allowed to marry, I'm not allowed to marry an Israelite woman.
But he didn't.
He did. His wife was King David's mother was an Israelite woman. He says the only one who I can marry is a slave that's owned by a Jew. So he said to his wife like this. So he said to his wife, he said, "Listen, dear, I'm sorry, I can't remain, right? I'll take care of you, right? I'll support you, protect you. I just can't have relations with you because maybe I'm not allowed to be married to you." So what I'm going to do is what I'm going to do. That was too late. You already had it. Okay, no, hold on. He says now the 7 sons doesn't make the 7 sons bastards. It just makes the 7 sons, right? Just whatever it is, whatever category they fall into. And then he goes. He says, "Okay." He says, "Give me one of your handmaids, right? Who's a Canaanite hand slave, maidservant, and I'll free her, and I'll go like this. If I'm not allowed to marry an Israelite woman, then I can marry her. If I am allowed to, then I free her, and if she becomes a freed maidservant, and I'm going to live with her, and she'll be my wife."
But with his Israelite wife, he didn't have
relations anymore. So that's what he does. Comes the night of the wedding. Get married. And they're going home.
He's marrying the slave.
He's married the slave woman who's conditionally freed. Okay? All of a sudden the woman gets a tap on her shoulder from
His wife.
his wife,
Oh,
right? Her boss, her, and says, honey, you ain't going there, I'm going.
Like the switch with.
With Rachel and Leah.
Wow.
It's interesting how they never
And
quite
she
understood.
goes in. He doesn't know.
What's wrong with these men? that
So
they don't know?
then he doesn't know. And she becomes pregnant.
How can you not know what?
And what does Jesse say? And what does Jesse say? Jesse says, "Where did you become pregnant from?"
He didn't realize.
He didn't realize it was her. So he says to her, "From you." So what are you talking about? You can imagine the conversations that take place. Now
movie on this one?
What?
Is there a movie?
Oh
yet?
my gosh, I commit such a good movie. Right? And so what happened, right? So that happens, she goes to live with her aunt, for 9 months. Right? And the son is born. Right? And she says, "It's from you." He said, "What are you talking about? It's a bastard. You're trying to pin it on me. You messed around. Like, what are you doing?" Tragic story.
So he didn't believe it was his.
Correct. And that's
Because
why when
he's blind in
Samuel
the dark.
shows up 28 years later, for the last 28 years, he's considered David as a bastard child, as a mamzer. Right? 28 years. And Samuel finally says, "Any more kids?" He goes, "Yeah, maybe." Right? Could be. Right? And you could think of all the thoughts going on in his head. Right? Right? No, yeah, no, wow, wait, yeah. Maybe, oh my God, right? And all of a sudden, like just getting, right?
But
And that's why
King
King
and that's why made David who he was.
Right? Oh.
Yeah, exactly,
Oh.
yeah.
So why did God make King David have such a rough childhood?
To strengthen him.
What?
To strengthen him.
For what?
To be a leader.
Humility?
Humility, yeah.
To temper his steel.
Okay, good. All good, but you're missing the main thing.
Humility.
What did King David write?
The Psalms.
He produced the book of Psalms.
And he learned
That we
how to
use
write
till
as a
today.
shepherd.
That we
That's
use
true.
till today. And we use till today. Word by word. So it's amazing. So anytime you go through a difficult point in your life, right? Use it as a way to create a relationship with God. Because when you create a relationship with God, then you've taken what could be a tragedy, or what the world would call a tragedy, and you create a book of Psalms that has been the companion of the Jewish people for the last 2900 years. And he created the book of Psalms.
He wrote this book.
He wrote this book
before he was anointed.
No, because the trouble didn't stop when he got anointed. He gets anointed. He's going to be the king, right? The happily story ever after. And what happens when he gets anointed?
First thing is that Samuel wants to
First thing is Saul wants to kill him.
Wants to kill him.
Right. So for 2 years he's running away from Saul. When he already has a hope. Right. And we were learning Wednesday night. Right. The whole life story of trying to be killed by Saul.
So he wrote his poems. He wrote his psalms. What time period exactly he wrote?
During the course of his lifetime.
Entire life.
And he was 70 years old when he died. But so then he goes and writes, and then what happens? Then he becomes king. Saul's dead. Finally becomes king. Life is good again? No. What happens then? His son rebels, steals his wives.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Then there's a famine. You just go on and on.
Just a mess.
And just a mess. And what does King David do with every situation that happens?
Makes the best of it.
He not makes the best of
He
it.
writes a song.
He writes a song. And what's fascinating is how does the book of Psalms end?
It's hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Right? Right? Ends with the 5 hallelujahs. What does hallelujah mean? Praise God.
And for everything.
For everything. Right? And he goes ahead and he ends off. It's all about praising God. Right? Right? It's all about, it's all, right? Because King David said as you go through life and you go through all these different, right, stories and trials and tribulations and this and that and this and that, right? He says, just remember, hallelujah. Remember to praise God.
How old was the David when he passed away?
70.
Why such a short years? I mean,
He was actually supposed to die when he was born.
so it was already
He got, Adam gave him 70 years of his life.
Adam. But
Yeah.
that's about all they could afford with him, right?
He was done probably. At
And
70.
right, no, but King David accomplished what he needed to accomplish in this world. He's the paradigm of kingship. Right? This is what King David is.
And Solomon, of course, one of the other greatest.
Paradigm of the source.
Mhm. Well, it's interesting, man, and a lot of service with it. Right? And what do we just remember?
The Psalms. The Psalms.
When God hits you, who's holding the other end of the stick? God. Right? And that's what now you read through the book of Psalms. What does he say? Because your father and mother could forsake me, but God will gather me in.
Israel had quite a few kings, but the most who stand out, just a few. We are talking about David, Solomon, and maybe
Yeah.
the same Saul, and there was another one.
I mean, you have a different, right? But David and Solomon
the most outstanding.
really are the ones that they have a lot of outstanding ones.
But nobody remembers as much as David and Solomon somehow. That's the
Well, David has the book of Samuel is a lot about David too.
And also it connects with the building of the temple.
The building the temple, right? Yeah, that's what it is. Alrighty, folks. We'll see you all same bat time, same bat station.
How are you? Good to see you.